be honoured if you would join us.
Greetings and welcome to Film Stories. This is Dan Cooper, and today we are looking at a film celebrating its 20-year anniversary. In fact, tonight I'm off to a 20th anniversary screening of this very movie with a 90s quiz to boot in front of it. It's The Big Lebowski. I just wanted to pay tribute to what I consider to be an American classic. Coen Brothers directed, starring Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, amongst others. And for me, a movie that has one of the finest conceits of the 90s, one of the greatest concepts for a film. And the Coen Brothers are great at creating all too fallible characters, but also they're truly wonderful at finding ways to encourage us to inhabit the same spaces as those characters, so they never become figures of parody or ridicule. And this was never more the case than with the character of the Dude, played so memorably by Jeff Bridges. The Coens have said that they don't share the same enduring fascination for the film as its legions of fans, and it's true. For them, they have made better films. Fargo is their most critically lauded film, being a great example. But that said, taking the central conceit of a Philip Marlowe-style character from an LA background, a kind of pulpy noir sleuth novel, a character that's constantly unaware of the situation unfolding around them, but then transposing a befuddled stoner into that role amidst, in the middle of a screwball comedy, is just brilliant in concept and as I said, even more so in execution. Alex Belth, who was production assistant to the Coens and later assistant editor on the film, has written a really brief book on the making of the film that's worth a quick read. And what's notable about the production process, especially compared to some of the films that in Film Stories we've looked at before, is that really the process was fairly uneventful compared to some of the more torturous productions that we've looked at. This was definitely no Apocalypse Now. So, nevertheless, as it's the film's 20th anniversary, despite the fact that the story of its production is fairly uneventful, I just wanted to pay tribute to it. So, despite the fact that there's nothing too tumultuous going on behind the scenes, I just wanted to have a quick look at the construction of one sequence in the film in particular, the bowling dream sequence. The sequence was shot fairly late into the film's production in an airplane hangar in Santa Monica, that had been converted into a soundstage for the purpose of shooting the scene. It was inspired by, and it was supposed to be evocative of a 1930s-style Busby Berkeley musical number. Hence, it had brighter lighting throughout the scene compared to the rest of Roger Deakins' cinematography throughout the rest of the movie, which, being set in LA, made much greater use of chiaroscuro, shadow, to pay homage to The Big Sleep and other films of that genre, the Raymond Chandler books, and that whole sleuth noir genre that The Big Lebowski sets out to honour. Bridges, who, according to the choreography team of Jackie and Bill Landrum, who put together the choreography in that sequence, that Bridges is a natural dancer, they said. He improvised his own sequence after being shown a series of era-appropriate steps by them. From there, he put together his own moves that he felt were appropriate to the Dude. The original intention was to shoot the whole sequence practically, but the shots where the Dude floats beneath the showgirl's outstretched legs, they wouldn't work because Bridges was just too broad. Remember, he put on weight for the role after meeting the real Dude, on whom the character was loosely based. And when he met the real Dude, and the real Dude was a bigger guy, Bridges reportedly felt fine about whacking on a few pounds, but so many pounds that then he couldn't fit on that sliding motion through the showgirl's legs. Instead, he had to be composited in afterwards with a computer. I'm making those inverted comma signs in the air. You can't see me. With a computer, the Coens talked about in the making of the DVD extra. And they say this with a computer in a almost toneless, kind of neutral voice, which I actually rewound just a couple of times to try and get a read on. And I couldn't tell if they were saying it with fascination or revulsion in a computer, or perhaps just not giving a fig. Maybe me just trying to read too much into it there. The cast and crew pulled they pulled a prank on Bridges throughout this sequence. Because when he did the technical run through, the showgirls had got the props department to add in copious amounts of fake pubic hair to each of the ladies' regions to give him the shock of his life as he was travelling between many pairs of ladies' legs. Each one was bulging with excessive amounts of body hair, which made me smile when I read that. Bridges, who apparently loves to take photos on set. In fact, you go to his website and his films are all listed there, and a lot of his photography is on there. He loves a panoramic camera, especially. Claims he took a picture of this as he was sliding through one of his little skateboard. Although, I didn't see that one personally on his website. Not that I was particularly looking or anything. Still, a shot of that magnitude reminds me of that Indiana Jones line. It belongs in a museum. Anyway, worse still, Bridges' embarrassment in that moment was compounded by the fact that he'd got the shoot days mixed up. He thought it was the big dance sequence, which is also part of that whole scene. And so he invited his wife and daughters along to see the shoot. And what they saw was him travelling between the legs of lots of ladies with an abundance of fake pubic hair. Bridges talks about he has talked about the dream sequence in a few different places. And one of the interesting things that he said was that he recalls that sequence being the only time during the entire production that he saw the Coens disagree on set, the two brothers disagree on set. At the point right at the end of the sequence when his body kind of hits, or it's implied that it hits the pins at the end of the bowling lane, and the two brothers were disagreeing on how he should react, and in the end they shot it both ways and then figured it out in the edit. Bridges would go on to work with the Coens again in True Grit. The Big Lebowski was a bit of a flop on release, but it earned its status as a cult classic by making more than twice its cinema takings in revenue and home video release revenue. Interestingly enough as well, the Coens' next movie they have planned, which is currently in development, is also it's called the zebra-coloured hearse, I believe. That's also a kind of California-based crime comedy noir caper involving a lunkhead character out of their depth. So maybe this is a world they're looking to return to, and maybe this time the audience will be ready for it. We can only hope. Well, that's all from me. If you enjoyed that, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out. I am off to a 90s quiz followed by a 20th anniversary screening of The Big Lebowski. The dude abides.